February. I have a financial interest with regards to this entity, and that I would be reclusing myself as to avoid any possible appearance of a conflict. Prince Charles Holdings, a Durham-based investment group, is spending more than $65 million in private projects surrounding a minor league baseball stadium being built in the 400 block of Hay Street. The group's projects include turning the Prince Charles Hotel into apartments and building the tallest building in downtown Fayetteville. In December, Williams, Jordan Jones, and businessman T.J. Jenkins met. In an audio tape secretly recorded by Jones, the hotel's project manager, Williams is heard asking Jones for $15,000 to clear up a minor legal issue with the Prince Charles Hotel title. After hearing the tape, every member of the council on April 9th asked Williams to resign. Williams refused and said he plans on finishing out the remainder of his 2-year term. Mayor Mitch Colvin called the meeting Monday night to have the city's legal team discuss removing Williams through the A-motion process. Karen McDonald, the city attorney, said the A-motion process is the only way Williams can be removed from office. This process hasn't been used often, McDonald said. The town of Hope Mills removed former Commissioner Tonzi Collins via A-motion in 2013. The council first will need to issue a petition for Mr. Williams' A-motion that will need to be signed by McDonald. Williams will then need to be served with the petition in person, either by City Clerk Pamela Megan or Fayetteville Police Chief Gina Hawkins. A notice period is required prior to a quasi-judicial hearing. Williams and other council members will be able to speak during the hearing. After the hearing, Williams can be removed by a majority vote if the council finds just cause to do so. McDonald said it will be up to the council to determine if Williams took part in misconduct in office during the hearing. She said the state law's definition of misconduct is very general. Williams can then appeal the council's decision in Cumberland County Superior Court. McDonald also said that any additional investigation of Williams' actions, including one by the city's Ethics Commission or by a third party, would have to occur in concert with the A-motion process. If not, the evidence found by an outside investigation may not be allowed to be presented during the quasi-judicial hearing. Williams, Colvin, Councilman Larry Wright, and Councilman D.J. Hare spoke in favor of having a third party examine the incident. I would feel good to know all the facts and have a third party come in. And I think that is worth the investment of this city going forward, Wright said. Colvin mentioned that the North Carolina Office of the State Auditor could look into the incident at no additional cost to taxpayers. The mayor said he wants to make sure the council can ask Prince Charles Holdings representative questions. I can't make a decision as important as taking away who District 2 sent here without having a full conversation, Colvin said. The PCH Group are our financial partners. They have taxpayers involved in that project, and they need to be able to answer questions. Council members Tisha Waddell, Bill Crisp, and Jim Arp spoke out strongly against having a third party outside of the city get involved. I think that it is messy because our peer does not seem to have shot straight with us from the beginning. And I think that's what makes it difficult for us to sit here and expect for an independent review to give us any new information, Waddell said. Crisp alluded to more issues involving Williams that a third-party investigation might uncover. There are other things about Mr. Williams' life that haven't come out yet, Crisp said, and he may not want some of them to come out. Arp said he would want the third party to investigate other issues that he did not expand upon. If that is the decision of this board, Mr. Mayor, then I would ask for that scope of that investigation be expanded to include other things that I think should be looked at, Arp said. The council did not end up voting on whether to involve a third party and ended the meeting by voting 9-0 to have the city staff move forward with the A motion process involving the Ethics Commission. Williams was not allowed to vote on the decision. McDonald said she expects to have the petition ready for the council to vote on by the council's agenda briefing meeting scheduled for 4 p.m. Wednesday at City Hall. After Monday's meeting, the Ethics Commission met to discuss how it will investigate Williams' alleged conflict of interest. The Ethics Commission was created in 2010 due to the 2007 controversy dubbed Ticketgate, in which a traffic citation given to a friend of then Mayor Tony Schiavone was improperly voided by police. Its 5 members consist of Fayetteville lawyer David Bach, accountant Dale Knowles, Stanley Dotson, a retired vice president at Cape Fear Valley Health Systems, Dr. Carol Jones, and Joseph LaVista Jr., the vice president of administrative services of Fayetteville Technical Community College. The Ethics Commission unanimously voted to table its investigation until it can get further direction from the council, given Williams' latest assertion that he never actually had a conflict of interest with Prince Charles Holdings. McDonald said the council can vote to excuse Williams from voting on downtown development projects in the future.
Okay. I guess it's time to do that, and then it's close enough. First, we have to find it.
What's that?
The station identification.
Okay, here it is.
Okay.
This is a Southeastern North Carolina radio reading service, a United Partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656. Your radio hosts are
Tina Beatty
and Linda Miller, and we are proud to serve you today.
Indeed we are. Here's an article, not a political article really. There's a little picture here of State Senator Ben Clark responds to questions in hearing Monday convened to consider whether he has moved out of Senate District 21 and therefore cannot run for re-election. A 3-person panel ruled in his favor. State Senator Ben Clark still lives in District 21. A 3-person elections panel ruled Monday in light of a complaint from a supporter of Clark's opponent Naveed Aziz that Clark had moved away and thus is ineligible to run for re-election. The Aziz supporter, Spring Lake Alderman James O'Gara, disagrees and said he will appeal the ruling to the State Board of Elections and Ethics Enforcement. O'Gara contends that Clark has moved from his family's home on East Lake Ridge Road in Hope County, near the western edge of Fayetteville, to a home Clark and his wife recently had built in the Vanda community east of Fayetteville. Senate District 21 encompasses all of Hope County and the northwest corner of Cumberland County. In Cumberland County, the district includes Fort Bragg, Spring Lake, and parts of western and northern Fayetteville. Vanda is well outside the district. It was expected, Clark said after the vote in his favor, and I mean they have no case and still have no case. Clark said that the Aziz camp made a weak presentation to the elections panel. The complaint will be defeated again, he predicted, when O'Gara appeals the matter to the State Elections Board. Aziz, who faces Clark in the Democratic Party primary election, did not attend the hearing. Aziz said later that she was campaigning Monday evening. O'Gara is one of her supporters, she said, but is not a member of her campaign team. But her campaign consultant, Perry Woods, attended and conferred with O'Gara's lawyer, John Austin, during the hearing. The hearing was conducted like a trial, with witnesses testifying to the panel. Austin questioned the witnesses on O'Gara's behalf, while John R. Wallace represented Clark. To bolster O'Gara's claim against Clark, Austin presented evidence that Clark had signed his ownership share of the Hope County home to his parents in 1994. Clark says he moved in into that home, which has 6,000 square feet, 6 bedrooms, and a 4-car garage. Clark's parents still live there. Clark said his father is in declining health and he won't move away from him. Austin argued that Clark's ownership with his wife of the home in Vanda, for which the couple obtained a mortgage in 2017, makes it unlikely that Clark still lives in the Hope County house. A provision in that mortgage contract requires the borrower to use the house as his primary residence. Clark argued that he is a co-borrower and not subject to that requirement. Clark said he had not closely read the loan document and he still maintains his primary residence at the Hope County home. Austin noted that when District 21's boundaries were being changed by the legislature in summer 2017, Clark sought and won an amendment to ensure that the new house would be in Senate 21. That amendment is a sign of where Clark is living, Austin said. Clark later voted against the map, despite its amendment to encompass his new house. He said the map was an illegal racial gerrymander. A court agreed and replaced that map with the boundaries now in place for the 2018 elections. The 3-person panel reviewing the matter had 2 Cumberland County Board of Elections members and 1 from Hope County. Hope County panel member Robert Vaughan, a Republican, and Cumberland County panel member Harvey Butch Rayner, a Democrat, sided with Clark. The other Cumberland County panel member, Republican Jeff Long, said he found O'Gara's case persuasive. But when the vote was called, Long did not vote. Because he did not vote, his vote was counted as an aye in favor of Clark.
Harnett deputy has long road to recovery. Harnett County Sheriff's Deputy James Eric Cook had no idea that a teenager might be carrying a gun when he attempted to stop him on a dirt path Saturday night behind Cagle's Furniture off of North Carolina 87. The 16-year-old Mario A. Garza III kept walking as Cook tried to question him about a missing persons report matching the boy's description that had been filed the day before. Sheriff Wayne Coates said at a news conference Monday morning. Garza tensed when grabbed by Cook, who decided to call for backup, Coates said. When he did, the sheriff said Garza pushed him and gunfire was exchanged. A bullet from a .45 caliber pistol struck Cook in his bulletproof vest. Another tore through his cheek and out the other side of his face. As quick as he went down, he didn't have a chance, Coates said. Cook was taken to Cape Fear Valley Medical Center, then flown by helicopter to UNC hospitals in Chapel Hill, where Coates said he remained in stable condition with very serious injuries Monday morning. Coates said he was able to talk to Cook the night of the shooting. "Sheriff, I'm okay," Coates quoted his deputy. Coates said Cook may have eye damage and his right ankle is shattered, possibly by tripping over a log. "He's got a long road to recovery," the sheriff said. "He's just a very lucky young man, and the vest saved his life. We need everybody to be praying for this family and this officer." Shortly after the conference, about 100 deputies and staff gathered at the flagpole outside the sheriff's office for an impromptu prayer service led by Sheriff's Chaplain Scott Ellison. While Coates spoke at the news conference, Garza sat in the courtroom across the parking lot awaiting a first appearance hearing. He is charged with attempted first-degree murder, assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill, inflicting serious injury, and 2 counts of assault with a firearm on law enforcement. A judge kept Garza's bail at $1.5 million. Garza's family has hired a Sanford lawyer to represent their son, Coates said. In February, Garza, who has a Cameron address, was caught with a pocket knife at Overhills High School and sent to the Star Academy, an alternative school in Littleton, Coates said. The sheriff's office hadn't had any dealings with him before that, Coates said, but his father reported guns were stolen from his home about 4 months ago. It is not known whether one of the stolen guns was used to shoot Cook, the sheriff said. Coates said Garza fled after the shooting, leading to a huge manhunt that included law enforcement from surrounding agencies, including Fayetteville. NC 87 and a carnival were shut down during the search, he said. Law enforcement, using tracking dogs, found Garza in the woods with thick brush off of Buffalo Lake Road, Coates said. The teenager did not resist. A .45 caliber gun was recovered when Garza was arrested, Coates said. In my opinion, he meant to kill this officer, the sheriff said. Cook, who has been with the sheriff's office for more than 10 years, is married to Melissa Cook and has 2 young children. Coates said the department is seeking donations to help the family defray medical and other costs. People wanting to contribute can write checks to Melissa Cook and deliver them to the sheriff's office, Coates said.
Now it's time for Myron Pitt's column. Let's see what Myron has to say for himself today. My microphone is loose again. There we go. PwC has interest in keeping water safe is the title of the column. So, the Public Works Commission water treatment systems do not filter the chemical known as 1,4-dioxane, a potential carcinogen. What we get coming in pretty much goes through the system, and it's what's coming out, says Chad Ham, the PwC's Water Resources Environmental Program Manager. When the chemical gets into the water, in our case the Cape Fear River, it gets in there rather good. It's a very water-soluble compound, Ham says. Once it gets into the water, it's pretty much just dissolves completely. I have been trying to gauge how worried I should be about 1,4 dioxane. I can't say I was entirely encouraged by Ham's news. The compound is popular for use in solvents and other products. Long-term exposure to it can elevate the risk of cancer, according to research. But Ham says we should keep it all in context. He says you're talking long-term chronic exposure. He says the standard health criteria excuse me, is based on someone drinking 2 liters of water daily for 70 years. Well, they can just log me out because I hardly drink any water at all. Oh dear. Ham says that using that standard and based on current levels we're seeing in the Cape Fear, and depending on what day's levels you are using, 1 in 100,000 are at elevated risk of developing some kind of health problem from that. That was a quote. Ham says he doesn't want to sound flippant, but the odds of dying in a car crash are much greater, and 1 in 6 people will die from heart disease. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says it's worse than that, 1 in 4. As for car accidents, the stats are 1 in 645. Everything we do has some level of risk, Ham says. He adds, my family lives here. I drink the water every day. Every day the people here at PwC, we're all drinking the water. We're not telling our families not to drink it. Now, I'm old school in some ways. When people tell me things, I give it a little more weight when they have skin in the game. PwC has its critics. I haven't times been one. But the hometown utility, as it bills itself, is filled with people who have a strong interest that they get water, sewer and power right. That's just the facts. All that said, we need to decrease the 1,4 dioxane levels infiltrating our precious resource, the Cape Fear, and it's going to take a commitment from governments and organizations beyond the PwC. The Environmental Protection Agency put out a guidance in 2013 saying its presence in drinking water should be no more than 0.35 parts per billion, which is comparable to a single drop in a 10,000 gallon pool. PwC's tests last year showed levels 6 times that amount. In a September report, the non-profit Environmental Working Group cited Fayetteville in a report as having among the most contaminated water systems in terms of 1,4 dioxane based on PwC's own tests from 2013. Ham says the Cape Fear does have some of the highest levels of 1,4 dioxane in the country, based on the data. Not for the first time, we can thank our friends and neighbors upstream for our plight. Being downstream in the good old muddy Cape Fear is no picnic. Commercial productions near Ashborough, Greensboro, and Reedsville have been identified by NC State University researchers and the State Division of Environmental Quality as sources of 1,4 dioxane, which appears in the wastewater of the municipalities involved. Fayetteville and other municipalities in the Urban Water Consortium funded the research, Ham says. He says the best solution for 1,4 dioxane is to stop it at the source. Now that sources have been identified, that should be easier to do, though permitting requirements and other regulation by the state. Meanwhile, PwC is planning an expansion at its Hoffer treatment plant off Ramsey Street. As part of that, the utility may look at costly methods that can filter at least some of the 1,4 dioxane. Among methods that have been proven to remove at least some of the compound, 50 to 60%, are advanced oxidation, reverse osmosis, and prolonged contact with a carbon filter. And in case you're wondering, a typical filter you could buy to put on a tap most likely won't do the trick. If for some reason the state doesn't get this thing figured out, Ham says, the PWC will see what we can do at the plant. I wouldn't expect anything less from the hometown utility.
Action delayed on Human Services changes. The Cumberland County Board of Commissioners will spend the next few weeks continuing discussion on how to structure its Human Services Department. Board members will consider 4 options to govern the department, which has been under scrutiny for about a year. Board members will continue discussion, gather public comments, and review results of an internal survey before voting on how the department will be governed. They will continue discussions during a meeting May 7th. Currently, there is a separate Department of Social Services and a Department of Public Health with boards for each. Commissioners can maintain that structure. Otherwise, commissioners could abolish one or both boards and assume responsibilities of the abolished board. If that option is approved, commissioners would have to appoint a health advisory committee. Commissioners also could establish a human services agency and appoint a new consolidated human services board, or establish a consolidated human service agency and assume the duties and responsibilities of the consolidated human services board. Under the current structure, the departments have been under scrutiny for about a year. The jail health program, operated by the department, lost its accreditation in October 2016 after an accrediting agency said it found serious issues with the program. County Commissioner decided last year to turn over the program to a private company. In July, commissioners learned that some women examined at health department clinics found to have abnormal pap smears may never have been told the results. Health officials say they have successfully contacted 129 of the 159 women. Also, during the Monday night meeting, the board decided to kick back a motion on funding the school system to its finance committee for further discussion. The current funding agreement with the Board of Education expires June 30th. Last month, the Finance Committee had recommended the board approve funding for the schools based on enrollment instead of property tax revenue. That recommendation was to fund the school system for fiscal year 2019 at $79,463,109. On Monday, however, the full board decided not to vote on that recommendation and instead sent it back to the Finance Committee, which will meet May 3rd. Commissioners and the school board have had funding arrangements that set the amount of money going to the school system since 2002. The agreement initially sent about half of the county's property tax revenue to the schools beginning in the 2003-2004 fiscal year. In 2011, the county started giving the school system a set amount based on the previous year. Do you have a short one?
Oh, do I have a short one? Well, no, that's not too bad. This is, okay. We got a little bit of time. We just need the obituaries, don't we?
Oh, yes. Hello. No. Go ahead and read that.
They'll be here directly, I'm sure. Okay, this is about Hope Mills. Voters to decide on Hope Mills terms. By Roger Mullen. Hope Mills. Town residents will be asked whether they want commissioners to serve 4-year terms instead of the current 2 years. At its Monday meeting, the Hope Mills Board of Commissioners unanimously decided to put the question to voters. Left undecided is whether the question will be on this year's ballot or next year's. The board had asked Dan Hartzog Jr., the town attorney, to look into changing the terms. Hartzog will report back on whether it is feasible to get the question on this year's ballot. Hartzog said the town could change the commissioner's terms by holding a public hearing and then voting on the matter itself by asking the NC General Assembly to change the charter or by putting the question on the ballot. Under the proposal, commissioners' terms would be staggered. Oops, can't find my paper here. Meaning some commissioners would be up for election in certain years and not others. Municipal elections currently are held in odd-numbered years. Commissioners agreed that the voters should decide if the change should be made. The biggest concern I hear from people is that they want to be the ones who decide, not the board, Meg Larson, a freshman commissioner, said. Mayor Pro Tem Mike Mitchell, who had suggested looking into the change, agreed. I'm fine with the citizens deciding on an amendment to the charter, Mitchell said. It is their town after all. Mayor Jackie Warner, who does not vote except in cases of a tie, said she preferred to leave the mayor's term at 2 years, but commissioners decided to ask voters to change the terms of that office too. The board also decided to table discussion on establishing a method to recall commissioners or the mayor. The board also decided to table discussion on that. Commissioner Jesse Bellflowers suggested that felony convictions, incompetence, misconduct while in office, violation of oath of office, and other conditions be set as grounds for recall. He said a recall petition should be required to have the signatures of at least 25% of eligible voters. However, Hartzog said the North Carolina General Assembly would have to approve a recall procedure, and he wasn't sure how long that would take, or if it would be successful. He noted that there are other means to remove a commissioner, such as a motion, and that's not a space motion, that is a word, a motion, A-M-O-T-I-O-N. That procedure was used in 2013 to remove Tonzi Collins from the board. In other action, the board voted unanimously to move ahead with building a bulkhead, including a kayak launch, landscaping, and access for the physically handicapped at Hope Mills Lake. The board heard from Stephen Fleming of Fleming and Associates, the firm that is coming up with a plan for the park around the recently refilled lake. The board had discussed including a boardwalk in the lake park, but there were concerns over cost and whether the boardwalk would take up too much of the lake park. Fleming said the board could go with whatever plan it wanted. He said handicapped accessibility could be built into the bulkhead plan. Fleming also recommended doing a topographic survey and grading the land on the side of the lake to make it less steep. Unanimously approved a site plan for Billy's thrift store at 3121 North Main Street. Town planner Chansa McLaughlin said the site had been a beauty salon, but recently has been operating as a thrift shop. He said the owners weren't aware until notified that they needed to get approval. McLaughlin said there were some code violations at the site, but they have been corrected. They approved a request to expand a Papa John's Pizza at 3403 Main Street, and they approved a bid of $482,000 from Charles Hughes Construction to build sidewalks along Rockfish Road. And they also were told by Melissa Adams, the town manager, that a proposed 2018-19 budget will be presented May the 7th. So there you are.
Okay, we got about 5 minutes. Let me.
We got any little ones? Not really, do we? We don't have too many.
You want me?
We usually do that after the obituaries. I think that's what's expected. So.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you know, what we could do is we could read station identification real slow.
Okay. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency, and we've been partnering with United Way for several years. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support. We need your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our post office box number is 35029. That's 35029. Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. If you have any questions or comments, we'd like to hear from you. Please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656.
Very good.
Your radio host are
Tina Beatty
and Linda Miller. We are certainly very proud to serve you today.
Yes, we are, indeed.
And we want
Here
to keep
comes
these services.
Valerie, I think, with the obituaries. We have to wait until the computer changes at 11 o'clock. Because if we don't, then we have to read it again. And it wouldn't be the first time I read the death notices only to be told I needed to reread them. So, there's not a lot of obituaries today. I noticed that when I looked in my paper at home. There's just not, which is good, you know. Of course, that probably means there'll be a whole heap tomorrow, but there's not too many today. And not many Fayetteville ones at all, just a couple.
Yeah.
That's called ad-libbing.
Well, I'm glad you're good ad-libbers. Okay. All right.
Not many. Okay, we're good to go. Here are the death notices. The following deaths have been reported. Upcoming editions of the Fayetteville Observer will have more complete obituary information. Cumberland County, Warren Wallace Winter, 46 of Fayetteville, Adcock Funeral Home, Spring Lake. Terrence McCoy, 38 of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Kendall Ronald Joyner, 43 of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Ronald Dawson, no age given, of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. A lot of younger people today. Robert Edmund Sr., 70 of Fayetteville, Weissman Mortuary. Jerry McNeil, 25 of Fayetteville, Colvin Funeral Home and Crematory. Eliza J. Curry, 84 of Fayetteville, Weissman Mortuary, and Bobby Lowry, 68 of Hope Mills, Lafayette Funeral Home. And from the region, Mrs. Emmy Hill, 76 of Elizabethtown, Johnson's funeral service. Excuse me. This is from Hope Mills. Eugene Sykes, 85 of Hope Mills, North Carolina, entered his heavenly home on April the 13th. Where are we? He was obviously in the service because there's a flag under his picture. He joined the Army when he was 17 and served 3 years, and then he joined the Air Force after that. So the celebration of life services will be held Wednesday, April 18th at Reeves Funeral Home in Hope Mills. Visitation begins at 1 and the funeral will be held at 2 p.m. with Reverend Donald R. Sykes officiating, and burial will immediately follow at Adcock Cemetery with full military honors. From Rayford, Mrs. Annie Mae Coleman of Rayford died Wednesday, and they don't give her age either. She died April 4th. There will be a memorial on Wednesday at 11 a.m. at Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, 454 West Palmer Street in Rayford, and Dobie Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements. From Eastover, William Richard Bill Sessoms, 79 of Eastover, died Sunday, April 15th. The funeral is on Friday at 2 p.m. at Lebanon Baptist Church, and visitation is at Jernigan Warren Funeral Home on Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. and burial will be in Old Bluff Presbyterian Church Cemetery, and Jernigan Warren is in charge of arrangements. From Fayetteville, Kelly Craig Robertson, 57, of Fayetteville, died Friday, April 13th. There will be a memorial on Thursday at 11 a.m. at Christus Victor Lutheran Church in Fayetteville, and Pinecrest Funeral and Cremation Services in charge of arrangements. And also from Fayetteville, Althea Maria Williams, 59, of Fayetteville, died Monday, April 9th. Funeral is Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Family Fellowship, that's in the morning, of course. Family Fellowship Worship Center. Burial, so it's going to be at Family Fellowship Worship Center. Burial will be in Forest Hill Cemetery in Boston, Massachusetts. And Wiseman Mortuary is in charge of that arrangement right there. And you get to do Region and Elsewhere, which is that one column there. We like to share them. So.
Okay. Ruby Elliott Jones of Fuquay Varina. Mrs. Jones, 87, of Fuquay Varina, died Friday, April 13th, 2018. Funeral Wednesday noon, Cuts Chapel, Free Will Baptist Church, 210 West Church Street, Angia. Viewing Dafford Funeral Home, 50 Tippett Road, Angia, Tuesday, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Burial, Wake Chapel Memorial Gardens, Fuquay Varina, Dafford Funeral Home, Angia. Earl P. Royal, Mission, Texas. Dr. Earl P. Royal, 82, of Mission, Texas, formerly of Clinton, died Tuesday, April 10th, 2018. Funeral Wednesday, 1 p.m. Worley Funeral Home, Clinton. Viewing Worley Funeral Home, Wednesday noon, 1 p.m. Burial, Running Branch Church of Christ, Disciples of Christ, Clinton. Worley Funeral Home, Clinton. Edward Reed Mason Sr., 78, of 219 Pearl Street, Clinton, died Thursday, April 12th, 2018. Funeral Wednesday, 2:30 p.m., Clinton High School. Visitation, First Baptist Church, Clinton, Tuesday, 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Burial, Sand Hill Cemetery, Worley Funeral Home, Clinton. Waldo Patton Stallings, 95, of Lumberton, died Sunday, April 15th, 2018. Grave site, Wednesday, 2 p.m., Gardens of Faith Cemetery of Lumberton. Visitation, briefly at the gravesite following the service, Floyd Mortuary. Loletta Godwin Jones, 97, of Fairmont, died Sunday, April 15th, 2018. Funeral Wednesday, 2 p.m. McDonald Pentecostal Church. Visitation Tuesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Burial Jones Family Cemetery, Bowles Biggs Funeral Home, Lumberton.
Okay. Billy Graham today. Question. I'm in prison. You know, these are from Billy Graham's writings. Since Reverend Graham passed away, they've been giving us different things every day. Here is the question. I'm in prison because I got angry and killed someone, and now I'm haunted by guilt. Someone once told me that Jesus forgave a murderer, but when I challenged him to prove it, he couldn't find it in the Bible. I wish I could believe God will forgive me, but I can't. What you did was serious. In fact, almost nothing, this is the answer, by the way. What you did was serious. In fact, almost nothing is more serious in the eyes of God and of society than deliberately taking an innocent person's life. One of the 10 Commandments states it clearly. You shall not murder. That's Exodus 20, verse 13. But listen, there is only one sin that God cannot forgive, and that is the sin of refusing his forgiveness. Yes, you have committed a great sin, but you would be committing an even greater sin if you rejected God's forgiveness, and that's what he offers you. You may hate what you've done. You may even hate yourself for doing it, but God still loves you, and he yearns for you to come to him and be with him in heaven forever. How do I know this? One reason is because this person was right. Jesus Christ did forgive a murderer. The murderer was Saul of Tarsus, who later became the Apostle Paul, the greatest Christian who ever lived. At one time, Saul hated Christians and was responsible for sending some of them to their death. He wrote, I persecuted the followers of this way to their death. And that's from Acts chapter 22, verse 4. But God forgave him and changed his life, and the same can happen to you. Don't carry your burden of guilt any longer, but by faith turn to Jesus Christ and give your burden to him. Then ask him to come into your life and cleanse you of all your sins, and he will.
Dear Abby, bride accuses mom of using wedding to spotlight herself.
Oh dear.
Dear Abby, once I announced my engagement, my already thin, fit mother went on a diet and lost 20 pounds. My weight has always been an issue with her, and I can't believe she would draw attention to it in this way. She called me a bridezilla because I told her I think she's trying to showboat my wedding because she's the one with the insecurity issues. I would have been happy to elope, but she insisted on this big wedding to show off to her friends and recoup the gifts she gave to their kids. How do we get through the next 6 months and keep our already fragile relationship intact? Daughter of Mozilla. Dear daughter, weddings are supposed to be about the happy couple, not a means for a third party to recoup gifts she gave to her friends' children. If you feel you would be happier eloping rather than be miserable going on with this show, that's what you and your fiance should do. However, if you do decide to go through with the wedding, you and your mother should agree there will be no further discussion about weight, hers or yours, period. Dear Abby, I came into work Monday morning to the news that one of my co-workers had passed away the day before from a massive heart attack. I was shocked and saddened. I was also appalled that my employer posted her death on Facebook less than 24 hours later. I don't feel that this is an appropriate forum to announce a death, and I also don't think it was my employer's responsibility to notify the world. In my opinion, the family should notify the public if they choose. Are there any rules of etiquette regarding social media and announcing a co-worker's death? Sad news in California. Dear Sad News, of course it is the prerogative of family members to post the kind of news. Ideally, your employer should have waited on an extra day or two to allow the family to get the word out. However, unless a family member complained to you about what your employer did, you shouldn't be so quick to judge. While you have experienced a shocking loss, your loss has too, particularly if the employee was a long-time one. That he and she shared it on social media isn't surprising these days, considering how much information is being posted online, nor was it a breach of etiquette. Dear Abby, I have been with my boyfriend for nearly 19 years, and we both agree that we don't want marriage. I just found out that for the last 9 months, he has been seeing someone else on his lunch break. He says he loves me and doesn't want to lose me, but he loves her too, and she is his friend. He said he would stop the affair, but because she's his friend, he won't stop texting and seeing her as a friend, quote unquote. Should I trust what he's saying? We don't have kids together, but we raised his 2 and my 1 together as our own. Silent Pain. Dear Pain, should you trust that your boyfriend won't resume the affair with his friend, or that he has stopped it? I don't think so. Although the 2 of you aren't formally married, you have had understanding that lasted almost 19 years, and he has breached it. You now must decide whether you want to be a part of a threesome, and for that, you have my sympathy.
Okay. And horoscope, we do have a birthday person today. Carol Curtis, it's your birthday today. We wish you a happy birthday again. And this is your personal horoscope. Born today, you are a keen student of human nature, and one of your very favorite hobbies is the observation of behavior. You know what makes people tick, and this surely helps you deal with all manner of people on a daily basis. And for the rest of you Aries, you may have to juggle several key issues today, and nothing is likely to be resolved just yet. Keep those balls in the air. Taurus, how you tell a certain story is far more important today than the actual events you are sharing. It's a matter of style over substance. Gemini, you don't want to get involved in anything that you think will be uninspiring or merely routine. Look for that which truly excites you. Cancer, be direct and honest in your dealings with someone who holds your immediate future in his or her hands. Don't equivocate. Leo, you know right from wrong today, and though it may be difficult to get others to see your point of view, it is important that you do so. Virgo, you must do things in the right order today. Don't make the mistake of thinking that your way is always the best way. That way lies danger. Excuse me. Libra, you may have to come up with something creative and effective without much preparation today. Try dusting off a favorite old idea. Scorpio, you may have to follow a rather winding path today in order to get to a certain destination that looms ahead. It's farther than you think. Sagittarius, you may become frustrated today when things become heated and you are shut out of a discussion because of your views. Capricorn, you must avoid doing something just for the money. If you're not going to benefit in some other way, it's not for you. Aquarius, others are more interested in what you are doing than you are. You can learn something from someone close by. And finally, Pisces, that which seems indirect is, in fact, much more direct than you could possibly imagine, and you'll be dealing with it before day's end. That's them all.
Okay. Opinion page. Williams' path forward leads only to removal. Unless he suddenly changes his mind about continuing as the District 2 City Council member, Tyrone Williams' colleagues will hear Monday night about their path to removing him, a seldom used process known as a motion. Mayor Mitch Colvin and the rest of the council were unanimous last week in their request that Williams resign his council seat. Williams refused, saying some of his constituents had urged him to stay on, and some members of the community have indeed suggested that he should stay on the council until his attempt to get $15,000 from a developer to correct a minor property title problem is further investigated. The trouble is, what Williams did is already clear. It was recorded and is available for anyone who wants to listen to it. Further investigation won't alter the conversation in which Williams and businessman T.J. Jenkins tried to get a payment from the mortgage manager for Prince Charles Holdings, the group renovating the Prince Charles Hotel into residential space. The company is also building a parking deck, an office building, and a hotel that will be adjacent to the city's new minor league ballpark across Hayes Street from City Hall. The company is investing about $65 million in the projects that are likely to be a catalyst in further economic development here. It is the biggest single development project in downtown Fayetteville's history. Williams did loan $100,000 to former Prince Charles owner John Chin, and when Chin declared bankruptcy, Williams claimed Chin hadn't repaid the short-term loan, but the bankruptcy court saw evidence to the contrary, including a deposit slip and the statement of a federal agency that Williams had reinvested the money in another project. The councilman's claim to a financial interest in the current project is clearly false, and that's another one of the problems Williams faces. He lied to his council colleagues about having a financial interest in the current Prince Charles project, forcing the council to retake some key votes on the stadium and the other projects. He also lied about informing the mayor and city attorney about his alleged conflict of interest in February. The FBI has investigated the December incident in which Williams and Jenkins asked Prince Charles Holdings for $15,000. It's unclear whether that agency or any other will bring criminal charges as a result, but that's no reason to delay removing Williams from the council. He's already done plenty to undermine his own political career and cast a pale over city government through the appearance of corruption. Williams should be able to see that, and so should his remaining supporters. If they can listen to the recording and still defend Williams' behavior, shame on them. On Monday, the council is expected to get a briefing from City Attorney Karen McDonald on the path to initiating a petition in a motion. The process, McDonald says, entails quasi-judicial hearing before the council to consider grounds for removal. According to the UNC School of Government, a motion includes a notice to the official who is the subject of the proceeding, a hearing and fact-finding process, and then a council vote on removing Williams from office. It can't take several months. It can take several months. A motion is rarely used in this state, but may be familiar to local government officials because it was the procedure used to oust former Hope Mills Commissioner Tansy Collins from office in 2013. It was used again later that year to remove a New Hanover County Commissioner. Prior to that, it hasn't been used in North Carolina since 1935. It appears appropriate for the Williams case. We hope, nevertheless, that Williams will see his political plight more clearly and show more respect for the district and the city that he represents. His actions have already destroyed his political effectiveness and covered the city with the stench of corruption, just as it was making unprecedented progress. It's clear that once the council initiates the A-motion process, Williams will be removed from office. If he cares at all about the city he claims to love, he'll step down now and spare us further pain and embarrassment.
Here's a couple of little ones here. This is the public safety column, which is quite short today. Fernando Jumor Dixon, 24, of the 1700 block of Gibson Drive, was charged Monday with robbery with a dangerous weapon and conspiracy. Bail was set at $100,000. Kiana Sampson Gray, 24, of the 7200 block of Pebblebrook Drive, was charged Monday with financial card theft, possessing stolen property, and financial card fraud. Bail was set at $10,000. Maurice's Lamont Brown, 36, of the 6400 block of Milford Drive, was charged Monday with being a fugitive from South Carolina, where he is wanted for failing to register as a sex offender. Bail there was set at $100,000. Under the break-in heading, on Progress Street, 1900 block, reported Sunday at 3:17 p.m. Electronics taken. Sarah Lane reported at 4:07 a.m. Saturday. Televisions taken. And under the sexual assault heading, Clinton Road, a woman reported at 1:59 a.m. Saturday that she was sexually assaulted in the area of Clinton, Baywood, and Old Vanda Road. So, and here's the little editorial today. Sometimes there was a big one and a little one that our editors write, and somehow none of the little ones have been going by the board. Early voting starts Thursday. The yard signs are up, the airwaves are sounding political again. Here and there we're having political forums. The candidates are making their pitch, and the voters are starting to listen. They should. Early primary voting begins this week. The one-stop early voting polls open at 8 a.m. Thursday at the Cumberland County Board of Elections offices on Fountainhead Lane downtown, and at 11:30 a.m. Thursday at 5 other locations across Cumberland County. The other polling sites are the Cliffdale Recreation Center, the North Regional Library, the Hope Mills Recreation Center, the East Regional Library, and the Grays Creek Recreation Center. Those sites will be open from 11:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. on weekdays through May the 4th. All 6 sites will also be open on 2 Saturdays, April 28th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and May the 5th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And what's on your ballot? You can find out by going to the State Board of Elections website at https://vt.ncsbe.gov/reg-lkup/ honestly folks, you can call if you want that, to look up your voter registration and get a sample ballot for your voting district. See you at the polls.
Letter to the Observer. How to protect our schools. Recently, Cumberland County Schools unanimously voted to implement a school watch program like the Community Watch program in neighborhoods across the United States. Interim Superintendent Tim Kinlaw stated The school angels would watch over campuses by being the eyes and ears of school officials. Implementing a school watch program as a surveillance measure is only 1/3 of the battle. Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance are the keys to enable timely and efficient decisions. Excuse me. School officials need to know the background and history of mass shootings at schools. The school angels need to train on what suspicious activities you look for and report. With the assistance of hidden and mountable monitored security cameras. Most important, school officials need to know the surrounding terrain and floor plan of their school by requiring vulnerability assessments. By identifying vulnerable points of access, peak times of activity in the school where large population can be targeted, and the availability of outside support measures that can rapidly respond to a dangerous and escalating situation, can aid in minimizing the opportunity for a mass shooting. Fort Bragg is just miles away, and with coordination, I know soldiers are willing to educate Cumberland County schools with standard operating procedures to secure our schools and our children. There are veterans and former law enforcement officers that retained valuable information and are willing to volunteer and divulge their knowledge. As a community, we must do what we can with what we have to ensure that our children feel safe at school. That's by Tiara Williamson of Fayetteville.
Well, here is, let's see, maybe I should station identification first, because this is a column by Leonard Pitts Jr., who writes really good columns. He's with the Miami Herald. This is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a non-profit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the SENCRRS in mind. Our P.O. Box number is 35029, Fayetteville 28303. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at 910-672-1600 or our toll-free number 1-844-709-5656. And your radio hosts today are Linda
Miller
and Tina Beatty. I'm the one that usually does that. And we are very proud to serve you today, and we really are. We're pleased to be here and have this privilege. And it is a privilege to us anyway. You might not think so. Okay, wake up now. We've got a column about Donald Trump's excuses. We kind of gave him, all right, you get a mulligan. You get a do-over here. Tony Perkins of the Tony Perkins of the Family Research Council on the white evangelical response to Donald Trump's alleged tryst with the porn star. This is what he said. He's new at government, and so therefore I think that he is learning as he goes. House Speaker Paul Ryan on allegations that Trump sought to interfere with an FBI investigation. Politicians say things during the course of campaigns that may or may not be fully informed. Chief of Staff John Kelly on Trump's promise to build a border wall. He's a human male, so he's not perfect. Pennsylvania voter Joey Del Signore on Trump's boast of sexually assaulting women. It's not policy, it's social media. You know the difference, right? Former aide Sebastian Gorka on why people should not take Trump's alarming tweets seriously. All people lie. North Carolina voter Bill Wallace on Trump's frequent untruths. Let's not judge the president on what he says. Ohio Representative Jim Renacci on reports that Trump called Haiti, El Salvador, and Africa whole countries. I'm not going to blame him, absolutely not, Pennsylvania voter Pam Schilling, on Trump's failure to deliver on his promises. Our topic for the day, as if you couldn't tell, excuses for Donald Trump. Spoiler alert, there aren't any. Unfortunately, that hasn't stopped people from trying. My microphone's acting silly again. Indeed, 16 months into this crisis presidency, one of the most troubling things about it is not the revolving door White House, the indictments, the lies, the sex scandals, the racism, the decline in American prestige, nor the daily drumbeat of war, but rather the refusal of his followers to hold the dear leader accountable for any of it. Consider the excuses above, each more threadbare than the last. It's a litany of It's a litany of rationalizations and justifications of a sort depressingly familiar to anyone within earshot of a Trump believer. He's not perfect, but he says crazy things, but what about when Hillary? What about how Obama? What about, granted, Trump, a rich man's son with a long history of walking away from responsibilities and debts, has probably never known what it is to be held accountable, but his failure to take responsibility is a personal problem. The failure of 89% of Republicans, Trump's most recent Gallup approval rating, to demand responsibility is a national scandal. Christian leaders are breaking faith, political leaders are sacrificing moral authority, average people are doing violence to decency and logic, all to excuse the inexcusable and explain away the objectively awful. That's not political loyalty. Would so many people have so readily dismembered conscience on behalf of Reagan, Clinton, Bush, or Obama? No. So the explanation for this lies beyond reason. This is less a presidency than a cult. We often talk about people, and this is in quotation marks, drinking the Kool-Aid. The young among us may not know the origin of that term, how it came into the language after cult leader Jim Jones led over 900 people to their deaths by inducing them to drink punch laced with cyanide. The moral of that story is this: unquestioning obeisance to unaccountable power is a recipe for disaster, a lesson we may be poised to relearn. No one can say what form some new disaster might take, but that one is coming seems more likely every day. If and when it does come, 9 out of 10 Republicans will be its authors, something else for which there will be no excuse. And that was Leonard Pitt's column, and he writes for the Miami Herald.
Students sue over school funding disparities. North Carolina's top court heard arguments Monday about whether county officials should share the blame if schools are so underfunded that some children don't get the chance for the sound basic education required by the state constitution. County governments are primarily responsible for providing buildings and infrastructure, but local appropriations totaled $2.7 billion in operating funds for things such as teacher salaries during 2014 to 15. The case is the first to address whether local governments have a duty alongside the state to provide every child an opportunity to receive a sound basic education, as the state Supreme Court determined in a landmark 1997 case named after one of the students who sued Landro. Parents and students in Halifax County contend county commissioners haven't fairly distributed local tax money that they control, forcing some students to struggle with fewer education offerings and dilapidated school buildings. Halifax County, unusual in North Carolina, has 3 school districts. The county created and entrenched inequalities between Halifax Public Schools and the other 2 districts, Attorney Mike Dorson told the justices. Students in the Halifax County schools, public schools, are 85% black and 94% qualified free or reduced price lunch, a measure for poverty level in 2014-15. Attorneys for the students said in court filings. Weldon City school students were 94% black and 89% qualified for food aid. Students in the Roanoke Rapids graded school district were 26% black, 65% white, and 62% were eligible for nutrition assistance. County commissioners are at fault in part, attorneys for the parents said, because they have stuck with a method of distributing sales taxes revenue that resulted in Roanoke Rapids schools receiving about $4.5 million and Weldon schools $2.5 million in added local revenue between 2006 and 2014. The county school system got nothing, even though families there were also paid sales taxes, attorneys for the suing parents said. Property owners in the Weldon and Roanoke Rapids school districts pay a supplemental property tax that generates more than $1 million a year for each district, attorney said. The county district is not allowed to do the same. Merging the school districts could equalize the disparities, Dorson said. But county commissioners have refused to adopt recommendations offered by consultants hired in 2011 to save money by leaving separate school districts in place but consolidating expenses like food service, maintenance, and busing operations, he said. A divided state court of appeals ruled last year that the Landro case established that state officials have the constitutional obligation to provide basic educational opportunity for every North Carolina child. So Halifax County parents should take their complaints to the governor and legislators rather than county officials. Lawyers for Halifax County commissioners said the High Court should agree with the lower appeals court that ruled county officials aren't responsible for funding shortcomings, even for funds they control. And if school board officials think they're getting shifted in county money, it's up to them and not students to sue. They have to be responsible for deciding, is this enough money? Or do we need to go to court? That's on them, County Attorney Glenn Rollins said. The General Assembly is considering a law that would bar school districts from suing county commissioners when annual funding disagreements can't be settled through a joint public meeting and formal mediation. The new law could create a formula based on student population and inflation, deciding how much funding a county commission provides if negotiations fail. Under current law, a school board submits a proposed budget to commissioners annually by May 15th. County commissioners then approve a budget ordinance as the fiscal year begins, July 1.
Okay, what have we got? At the time it's 2010. Okay, here's an article about a comedian, Lil Rel Howery. Don't know if I know him. There's a picture of him here. Lil Rel Howery broke out big with his role as a TSA agent in last year's Get Out. Okay. Comedian Lil Rel Howery lost a job when the NBC sitcom The Carmichael Show was cancelled last summer, but 2017 was still the best year of his career. That's because of two words: get out. Howery, or at least his character, TSA agent Rod Williams, became a fan favorite as writer-director Jordan Peele's racially charged horror comedy went from box office surprise to pop culture phenomenon. For Howery, 38, the breakout role was the culmination of years of hard work, but the ride isn't over. You think about how last year was such a big year for me, Howery says. This year it's going to be even bigger. With a Fox sitcom pilot, Rel, and several movie roles and stand-up specials in the works, Howery is gearing up for the long term. What people are going to learn this year about me is you can't put your finger on exactly who I am, he says. Here is a question. He was questioned by Rudy Greenberg from the Washington Post. First question: what got you into comedy? And he answered, just being a fan and a nerd of comedy and television and films. I remember reading Richard Pryor's first biography when I was 16. Eddie Murphy, Delirious, changed my life. Watching that, it was like, this is amazing. This is what stand-up is. I gotta do this. When did you turn it into a career? That's the next question. When I turned 21, I moved in with two other comedians and started doing the Riddles Comedy Club in Chicago. That's how I came up. I used to get paid $50 every Sunday to seat people and get 5 minutes of stage time. People would say, how can you do that, man? That ain't demeaning. That ain't demeaning? Oh, I get it. No, it's a question. No, I get to go about the hottest spot every week. Next question. Your first stand-up special, 2015's Relevant, is full of stories about your life and the characters you've met along the way. How has your comedy evolved since then? Here's his answer. It's the same thing. What happens is you just get more stories. I have 4 hours of material I ain't done on nothing. Well, the next question, is this material you're doing on the road stuff you've been sitting on, or is it new? It's funny you say that, the answer here. The material I'm doing now is for 2020. The stuff I'm doing now is preparing for specials 2 or 3 years ahead. It's a very crazy thing to say to people. How's he doing that? But I've strategically thought about it over the years. I'm a crazy person like that. And the next question, are you worried about any of it getting stale? Nah, I think that's the best thing about doing stuff that's personal. I'm not going to say this is in the news. The things that always stay significant is family stories and dad stories. Those stories are always going to be the same no matter what year it is. And the question, are you addressing Get Out in your stand-up? Yeah, you do little things. You do get the elephant in the room out of the way. You do it in the beginning and then take them on this ride of knowing who you are, because there's nothing you can do about that. They saw Get Out. That's...
Okay. I think animal lovers will like this one.
Yes, that's me.
Animal House. Let's see. Most dorm residents at Southeast Missouri State University will show up this fall with bedding, a laptop, a backpack, and other typical accessories. A few dozen others will tote something furrier and breathing, their pets. The school in Cape Gardena, Missouri, announced last week it is creating pet-friendly schools in one resident home where students will be allowed to bunk with roommates of the feline, petite canine, or small caged animal variety. The decision came in response to rising requests from prospective students and their parents for such a perk, according to university officials, who hope it will help smooth some newcomers' transition from home to higher education. With this move, Southeast joins a small but growing group of colleges that offer housing to students and their critters. They include the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which has allowed cats in some dorms since 2000. Pfeiffer University in North Carolina, the University of Northern Colorado, Eckerd College in Florida, and Stevens College, a women's school in Columbia, Missouri, with a website that boasts, "Here we treat pets like royalty." College officials say students today retain closer ties to home than those of previous generations, in part because of social media. That can make the move tougher, and permitting pets is one way to make sure we're integrating students best into the learning environment, said Debbie Below, Southeast Vice President for Enrollment Management and Student Success. The school, located near the banks of the Mississippi River, will make space for about 70 pets in one of its 21 resident halls. Below said they will be distinct from the 25 or so service and emotional support animals that is required by federal housing and disability laws already live in various dorm buildings. The university experience with those animals made officials feel confident they could lay out a more general pet welcome mat, Below said. Officials also hope the new pet-friendly floors might attract some of the students with services or emotional support animals, which Below said occasionally present challenges in regular dorms. You could have somebody on that floor who's afraid of animals or has a serious allergy, and you're going to end up moving somebody, she said. We're hoping that this is one solution. Pet-friendly housing rules tend to be fairly similar from college to college, and they are designed to prevent problems caused by animals in shared spaces. At Southeast Missouri, which has about 11,500 students, critters will have to be family pets that are quiet, housebroken, and get a roommate's sign-off. They will not be allowed in dorm bathrooms, and to protect residents with pet allergies, owners may not use laundry facilities to wash pet bedding or toys. The University of Northern Colorado, on the other hand, dealt with this issue by designating washing machines and dryers for that specific purpose. Below emphasized that Southeast Missouri's pet-friendly floors will be a pilot program and adjustments to the policy are likely. At least one school that has tested such a program, Lincoln Memorial University in Tennessee, decided to abandon it after 2 years. At the other end of the spectrum is Eckerd, a liberal arts college in St. Petersburg, Florida, that has permitted dorm pets since the 1972-73 school year. James Amarillo, vice president for the student and dean of students, said records do not reflect how the policy came about, but he suspected it was driven by student demand. This is not a top town place, he said. These days, Eckerd has under 1,900 students, but it is 229 registered pets on campus. Of those, 132 are dogs or cats, and the remainder represent an exotic array of species, spokeswoman Robin Hopewell said. We have some spiders. Ooh. Hopewell noted as she read from a spreadsheet of campus animals. It looks like our most popular lizard is a bearded dragon. There are 5 of those. Ferrets, fish, gerbils, frogs, guinea pigs, hamsters, hedgehogs, rabbits, rats, unspecified reptiles. Oh my goodness. We've got 23 snakes, 1 sugar glider, and 7 tortoises or turtle. There once was a pair of ducks that lived with a pair of roommates. The ducks actually graduated 2 years ago, Hopewell said. Their humans did too. Twice a year, a veterinarian visits the Eckerd campus to provide checkups. Once a year, a pastor comes to the school, which is affiliated with the Presbyterian Church, to bless pets in honor of Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals. Each spring, Eckerd holds a commencement ceremony just for the animals. Even students who have no intentions of keeping a pet of their own cite the school's pro-pet posture as a draw, Anarilla said. It's for them a sign of the kind of welcoming community this is, she said.
Okay. Well, I don't know where the television schedule is. Did I? Oh, no. We have an article here about the theatre, the Cape Fear Regional Theatre. There's a picture of the cast of Sense and Sensibility, which a lot of you may know was a Jane Austen book, but this is a version of it that looks like it's set in modern day clothes. So it could be quite different. Style meets substance in Cape Fear Regional Theatre's production of Sense and Sensibility. The result is a play that admirers of imaginative theatre will be able to appreciate even if they don't happen to be Jane Austen fans. The play, directed by the theatre artistic director Mary Catherine Burke and adapted for the stage by Kate Hamill, opened Saturday after previews on Thursday and Friday. Shows continue through April the 29th. The story centres on two young sisters, Eleanor and Marianne Dashwood, played by Robin Galloway and Kelsey Milbourne, as they navigate love, life and manners in Victorian England. Eleanor is the more reserved and rational of the sisters, representing the sense of the title. Marianne is more emotional, representing sensibility in its old-fashioned usage. Shortly after the play opens, the sisters move with their widowed mother, played by Libby McNeil Seymour, from the estate where they grew up to a more modest cottage. The family also includes a younger sister, Margaret, Mary Lynn Bain, and an older half-brother. John, Greg King, and a sister, an older half-brother, John, Greg King, and a sister-in-law, Fanny, Alison Little. A series of romantic entanglements and flirtations ensue, revolving around the reserved Colonel Brandon, Brooke North, and the handsome John Willoughby, Mitchell Stevens. Austen's novels, which also include Pride and Prejudice and Emma, have attracted a wide fan base in the centuries since their publication and have been the subject of countless movie, TV, and stage adaptations. My wife is one of those loyal Jane Austen fans. Oh, this article was written by Roger Millen. I have to admit that I am not. For me, it was a little tough to navigate the dense maze of manners and formal language that are the hallmarks of an Austen novel. At Friday's preview performance, I had to nudge my wife a couple of times to bring me up to speed. That said, the play was very well staged, acted, and choreographed. Milburn, who also served as the play's choreographer, and Galloway, who works in military outreach for the theatre, were perfectly matched as the sisters. Stevens brought a roguish charm to the role of John Willoughby. Many of the laughs in the play, and there were plenty, came courtesy of Michael Thrush, playing the matchmaking Mrs. Jennings. Theatre stalwart Greg King played several roles, all of them well. While the storyline left me a little cold, I was completely taken in by the staging of the play. But made her Cape Fear Regional Theatre directorial debut, chose to present the work in a highly stylized manner. Brian Adam Klein is the assistant director. Modern dress was mixed with clothing more typical of the late 18th century in which the play is set. One character, for instance, wears a black leather jacket. The actors also serve as stagehands, moving props around between scenes. Purists might cry foul, but I enjoyed the audacity. This production of Sense and Sensibility may not make a Jane Austen fan out of anyone who doesn't happen to already be one, but its sense of style makes it a worthwhile experience. So that is it. In the nick of time, the 11th hour. I'll have to read fast, won't I? ABC, 8 o'clock, Roseanne, 8:30, Alex Inc., 9, Blackish, 9:30, Splitting Up Together, 10 o'clock, For the People. Those are all new. CBS, NCIS at 8, Bull at 9, which is new, and NCIS New Orleans at 10, which is new. The NCIS one, I think, is an old one. NBC, The Voice at 8, 9 o'clock, Rise, 10 o'clock, Chicago Med. I watched that, I like that. A&E, The First 48 Without a Trace, that's at 8. Missing a decomposed body found in the woods, that's new. And then at 10, Marcia Clark Investigates. AMC, the movie at 8 o'clock is Open Range. It's a 3-star movie, a western, with Robert Duvall, Kevin Costner, Annette Bening. And then they're going to repeat it again at 11, just in case you miss it. The Discovery Channel, Deadliest Catch, 8, Deadliest Catch, 9, and those are both new. Last Outpost at 10, and Deadliest Catch again at 11. Down we go. TBN, Praise, Joseph Prince, Carolyn Leaf, Joyce Mayer. So all of those are the ones that are usually on every Tuesday. Praise is an hour long. Joseph Prince, Carolyn Leaf, and Joyce Meyer are 30 minutes each. TBS, The Big Bang, all the way across. Turner Classic Movies. The 8 o'clock movie is something called Gun Crazy, which is a 1950 crime drama starring Peggy Cummins, John Dahl, and Barry Kroger. I never heard of any of them, I'm sorry. And then the movie after that is called, it's a 2-star movie called Curse of the Demon, was made in 1957 with Dana Andrews, who I vaguely remember. An American psychologist in England is marked for death. Oh my. And TLC, Little People, Big World at 8 and at 9, and then at 10, My Little Life. And all of those are new. So, that concludes. Happy birthday again to you, Carolyn. And this concludes our reading of the Fayetteville Observer. Your radio hosts have been
Linda Miller
and Tina Beatty. And please tune in at 1 p.m. when you can hear an hour of the Paraglide. At 2 p.m. for a tape broadcast of a Southern Pines pilot. At 4 p.m. you can hear Off the Bookshelf. Additionally, you will hear a rebroadcast of today's Fayetteville Observer tonight at 9 o'clock. We will now join the Raleigh Network for additional news of interest. We thank you for tuning us in. We've enjoyed being with you this morning, and we hope you have a wonderful day. And God willing, we'll see you next Tuesday on the radio. Bye-bye. We're a little bit early. A few seconds.
Those articles in quick.
What now?
They got to work getting those articles in quick. I'm going to talk to
What articles?
the newspaper article.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what's happened. Used to be, sometimes she cut the paper herself. first thing in the morning, but she seems to be gradually, not having enough time to do it. And
Yeah.
she's got too much to do, I know.
Yeah.
Then she had students that she was training to do it.
Yeah, it was one over there doing it. He did the kind of stuff. He must have been new.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to do. The tricky part, we used to cut our own articles, a long time ago, when I first started reading. We cut our own articles. So we came at 9 o'clock and cut the articles. The trick is, a lot of them have continuations.